With an increasing focus on digital-only game sales, what happens when a marketplace retires or a game is suddenly removed and is no longer available?
If it was never released physically and can never be downloaded again, how can anyone ever play it without it being remastered or released on a different system? What if it never gets remastered or released again and is gone forever?
And what kind of solutions could we put together now for our current consoles to prevent that from ever becoming a reality? Let's find out. But first, some background information.
One of the most notable examples of this was the PT demo on the PS4 in 2014. After receiving such critical acclaim, sadly it was cancelled, delisted, and removed from the store, never to be seen from again. Now this was only a demo, and there are some workarounds and other methods to still be able to play a copy of it again. But this took time and a dedicated community, years to make that a reality. What if you want to play a lesser known game like Fusion Genesis that was released on the Xbox 360 decades from now? This is a title that I personally enjoyed in 2013. I was casually scrolling through the Xbox Marketplace one day looking to spend some gifted Microsoft points and found this charming top-down twin-stick shooter that I ended up 100%ing. I still have it on my 360's hard drive, but for how long? Anyone can still re-download previously purchased games from the 360's marketplace, but it's only a matter of time before that is retired and is never able to be accessed again. At this point, no one new will ever be able to play this game again, and I highly doubt there will be another release of it anytime in the future.
Is this a must-play title for the 360? Definitely not. But that's not the point.
Physical copies of games are becoming increasingly rare and typically only reserved for the largest releases. Digital-only games many times get forgotten, so what are we to do? First off, I am a collector of games. Not a large collector by any means, but I do love the physicality of them. The fact that you can develop a library over time and even go back to old releases and experience the nostalgia of replaying them again is fabulous. I love the art of it all, the way the cases pop open and snap shut, and even the sound of a disc or cartridge being dropped into place for another play session. This can be said for any number of older systems and is probably one of the reasons retro gaming is so popular. I wanted to figure out a long-term backup solution to my current digital library of games on the Xbox One before those titles start to disappear. Basically a way to preserve them so that I can relive each of the titles similar to the games from our somewhat recent past. Next, some quick education on storage media. In order to have an effective backup plan, it's always good to have 3 copies of something. A simple solution would be to keep 1 copy of the game on your Xbox system, 1 on an external hard drive, which is a well-known process at this point, and 1 in the cloud, which would be represented by the current Xbox Marketplace. But we are planning for the future, so we will need to add another backup type to the plan for the Xbox Marketplace being eventually shut down. And in doing some research, there are lifespan issues with hard drives, which means they will need the data refreshed or transferred to new drives every so often. Hard drives last on average 3 to 7 years. SSDs are better at around 5 to 10 years, and flash memory has around a 10-year lifespan. But I don't want to continuously rebuy hard drives just to be used as backups forever. And if I use another cloud storage service, that means there are monthly fees and I still don't have anything physical to collect either. I mean, I could purchase a digital tape backup system, but that's around $3,000 to $5,000.
But that's just for the player. That's insane. So what's a more affordable option?
I could just keep buying extra hard drives and juggle the data between them until I forget to do it sometime in the future or become sick of doing it altogether. But what about writable discs? Writable DVDs and even Blu-rays don't seem to stand up to the test of time and can still fail. But that's where the M-Disc comes in. Millennium discs, or more commonly called M-Discs, are meant for extremely long-term storage. They come in different sizes for individual needs too. They can withstand high heat for days and extreme humidity without any data loss. They are even said to last for 1,000 years if stored properly. I don't know if they will last that long, but even if they last for only 100 years, my great-grandchildren will still be able to play some of my old games provided the hardware is still kicking. Compare an M-Disc with a USB 3D NAND flash storage or QLC NAND memory in solid-state drives. The average lifespan is only around 10 years. They are sensitive to temperature and moisture, and you have to power them on every so often to make sure the data is complete and not degrading. Now I love being a data hoarder, but I don't love having to maintain that data and constantly worry if I'll lose it one day because I just happen to forget to turn it on one month or the drive just completely fails. Now I know what some of you are saying right now. Will disk drives even be around in 30 years, let alone 100? Now I don't have a crystal ball, but I would say yes. If you do a quick search on Amazon right now for brand new floppy disk drives, you can find multiple manufacturers selling them for around $20. Those came out in the 80s and are still available 40 years later. Disk-based media has been widely adopted since the 90s, so I'd be willing to bet that they will also be around for a very long time as well. So we have our long-term storage option. But now, how do we actually store it? Well, I think there's actually an obvious choice. Why not just store them in Xbox One cases? Maybe make some custom artwork instead of just writing the title on the blank case too? I created a free account on Canva and made a cover art template by measuring the space between all of the logos on a few sample Xbox One games. The Outer Wilds was the first game I researched since it was probably the most popular digital-only game I own. I scoured the internet for PNG logo files with backgrounds already removed and game art to go with them. I matched font styles and copied promotional text to use on the back cover to create what I thought looked best. If you enjoyed the design process, I would highly recommend mapping out your own template and creating something unique to you. I loved this process and spent several hours searching for the right images and tweaking text placements to make the final product look as professional as possible. For those of you who really don't enjoy this process, there are plenty of resources online where people will post theoretical box art for games that have never had physical releases. Just do some searching online and you should be able to find a few options for your favorite digital title to choose from. And unfortunately, since many of the images and logos are copyrighted, I can't distribute my finished cover art collages to anyone. I would never condone the use of third-party tools like the snipping tool in Windows to be able to take full-size screenshots of these finished images either. And also, I probably shouldn't show the full-size flat images of the finished cover art, so it would be easier to use these third-party tools.
But I guess if someone were to do this after watching this video, it would be disappointing, but completely out of my control.
I then printed a few copies of these on regular paper, but they just didn't really look right. The original cover art paper is much glossier and the colors are a bit more vibrant. Unfortunately, I know nothing about paper stocks, and I took a small break from looking up additional information on it. But while I was walking around the block, a little birdie told me about the correct type to use. It looks to be an almost exact match for the current mass-produced cover art, and I printed a few more copies that turned out much better. Now the color isn't perfect, but I could always go to FedEx office or somewhere similar if I really wanted to get better quality prints. But I'm pretty happy with it for now. Now to find a few unused Xbox cases to pop these into, and the faux cases are ready to be filled. Now I may have jumped a little ahead, but how do we marry these ideas together? And is this still even possible?
Let me go through the full step-by-step process of what I did and the hardware that you'll need in order to make this succeed.
I picked up this well-reviewed external disk drive by ASUS, not only because it had everything I needed, but I also really liked the look of it. After some further research, I found this was a little overkill, and any Blu-ray disc burner can be used for burning M-discs. But if you want to be able to burn DVDs as well, it has to be done with an M-disc supported drive like this one. I'm planning on using regular M-disc Blu-rays since most of the digital games I own are under 25 gigabytes. These also happen to be the most cost effective, and this was also just a test. I do plan to use this drive and M-discs for backing up family photos and videos too, so it still has some use even if the Xbox backup doesn't work out the way I had hoped. In addition to the discs for backup, I also need an external hard drive to transfer files from my Xbox to a computer. The Xbox also has a few requirements if you plan to make a backup drive as well. I already have a USB 3.0 hard drive docking station for fixing laptops that I'm going to use as a temporary housing for my backup drive. I grabbed a random tested and wiped Western Digital 750GB drive and popped it into the dock to get it formatted for the Xbox. If you've never done this process before, it's actually pretty easy. You turn on and connect your external drive to your Xbox and then follow the on-screen prompts. Here's a little walkthrough of my selections. I chose to use the drive for games and renamed it Xbox Backup. Formatted it, kept my current locations for the storage of games since this will be a backup only, and then selected that the drive will be used on multiple consoles since it might. I didn't get any notifications to show that the drive was done formatting, but went to Manage and My Storage Devices, and the new external drive popped up right away. Then went back to my apps and games and selected Outer Wilds and went to Manage Game and Add-ons. Selected it again and went to Move or Copy. Selected both the original game and the expansion and went to Copy Selected, and it began to copy the game to my external drive. Once it was complete, I took it back to my PC to transfer the files for burning to an M-disk. But it's not that easy. The PC won't recognize the drive since it is formatted for the Xbox, so we need to use a program to convert the contents into something that is readable by the computer. I found this wonderful Xbox One external storage device converter and installed it on my PC. As a reminder, all the links are in the description. It did require an additional small update to work on my machine, but afterwards the application started without any issues. I scanned for the external drive, which showed that it still had Xbox formatting, and right-clicked on the drive to convert it to PC. Once finished, you can click Scan again to update the list and make sure it did convert, and then close everything and select the drive to view the files. I made a new folder for the Outer Wilds on my desktop and copied the files over, but about 5% of the way through the transfer, it failed. I tried it several more times and it continued to fail each time around the 5% mark. Could there have been a bad transfer? Or maybe it just didn't like the file system on my computer. I tried it directly with the disk burning software instead. Then it would bypass the need to be transferred to my PC hard drive completely. I loaded the Power2Go disk burning software that came with the burner and adjusted the settings to a max write speed of 4 times for the Blu-ray M disc. Dropped in the files and started the writing process only to have it fail again around the same percentage. I tried another burning software called Burn Aware and the same thing happened again. I then realized what had really happened. The hard drive went bad. I can't think of a better way to illustrate my point and worry of hard drive failures over time. Now yes, this was a used drive, and for it to only have around 3600 power on hours and fail is very surprising. And it's a good manufacturer too. These normally last for tens of thousands of hours, so this is exactly why I want another backup solution, since you never know how long each of these will last. So I started at the beginning with a brand new SSD just to make sure I wouldn't have any more problems going forward. It now transferred the files without any hiccups, and I moved on to burn the data to a disk. I made sure to select the proper write speed again and began the transfer. It worked flawlessly and even verified the data after writing to make sure everything was intact. For a game the size of Outer Wilds, this entire process took about 15 minutes. I checked to make sure all of the data was on the disk and then deleted everything from the hard drive for the first test. Everything from the disk was transferred directly back to the hard drive, and once completed, I made sure to convert the drive back to its Xbox formatting before testing on my console. I also deleted the game from my console before plugging in my backup drive to start the data transfer. The transfer went much faster than the first mechanical drive I used too. Then disconnected my backup and started up the game. It worked perfectly. But now what about if my console fails in the future and I need to transfer over game data to a different one? Because we all know DRM is a thing, and when games are purchased for one console and transferred, can they still be used without an internet connection? Well, as luck would have it, I found this scratched up black Xbox One console at a garage sale that I could use for testing. A few connections later and I had it all set up. I added my account to it, but disconnected it from the internet before connecting to the external drive via the USB port. The drive popped up right away, which is great, but upon further review, there's no data to be found on it. It shows that there is data used on the drive, but you just can't access it. I had to go online, and this unlocked the ability to use the data on the drive, which, if I'm being honest, is slightly disappointing. It proves the backups will still work, but are currently limited to having a connection to Xbox servers. Now, there are no plans to shut down Xbox One's access to its larger marketplace anytime soon. If we use the Xbox 360 as a template for when it will be shut down, it should still be valid and accessible until at least the year 2032 or 33. And given the mod scene with older retired consoles, it's only a matter of time before someone creates a workaround for this Xbox connection status requirement. I recognize that this isn't a perfect solution, but at least for the short term, it is a good way of backing up your already owned games in a physical form that won't degrade over time. No need to download anything again from the marketplace, especially if you have a slower internet connection, and it provides a great archival backup of your data. Even though this isn't 100% of what I had expected to create, I still think I'll slowly go through my digital library of games on the Xbox One and back up what I can right now. This solution, including the price of the cover art paper, USB dock, disc burner, and discs, cost me roughly $22 per backup disc. Now, if I did my entire digital library, it would probably be closer to $8 to $10 per backup disc, and that's also provided I exclusively use the equipment for only this project, which isn't the case.
Was this entire project a waste of time and money? That's for you to decide. But I love these.
And I fully understand that some of these games are available on other platforms, but why purchase them twice? I can purchase a physical copy of the Outer Wilds on PS4 and the first Switch, but I don't have either of those consoles, so that really does me no good. Plus, I prefer Xbox. You're welcome to call me an Xbox fanboy, but I just prefer it over the other platforms. Given the current state of gaming with more and more titles going digital, my hope is that this adds to the larger conversation on preservation and bringing more digital items over to physical. The Switch 2 game releases not really being physical, and the current conversation with the Stop Killing Games initiative in the EU are very relevant to this conversation too. I want to own something physically, and I feel like many gamers still have that same sentiment as I do.
But maybe I'm wrong. I'd love to know your thoughts on the topic. I know this is outside of my normal video topics on repair, but I still feel it's relevant to the larger issue on game preservation, which also kind of relates to game repair. I really hope you found some of this information useful, or have even been inspired to create your own backup system for your own digital games. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.